We are live. I have no idea what week it is because I've missed so many weeks, and Gemma is having a lot of technical issues today. We've got some people joining us. How are you going, Gemma?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You
I
just
can't
can't see
see
me?
you. Correct.
Okay, well, I think it's nearly sorted, but let's just Anyway, it's like week 21. And you've
No,
missed what, like the last
it
three?
couldn't be.
Yes.
Well, it is nearly Christmas, so that is actually what we're talking about today. Is of the festive season and lots of costs associated with Christmas. Let us know in the chat if you have any specific questions in relation to this festive period of Christmas and New Year, and if you celebrate it, or even if you don't celebrate it, whether it's still quite an expensive time of year for you for other reasons. Oh, you're here.
Hi. Oh, that
Um,
was so stressful.
yeah, that's okay. I have two questions for you, Gemma, two really important questions.
Okay.
What is your favourite part of the festive season?
Oh, that's a good question. So I don't want to come off bad, but I don't love I don't love Christmas. Like, I'm one of the types of people that some of my best friends will already have their Christmas trees up, and
Yeah.
I will wait till the last minute possible, and I have been known to even take the Christmas tree down after lunch on Christmas Day. Yeah, I really like my space, and everything's got a place, and the Christmas tree just throws out all the I don't love it.
Well, that's something you don't like, but what do you like about Christmas?
Okay, so I love that people make more of an effort to catch up, like family and things. So it's like the
Mhm.
perfect excuse to see family. Obviously, love how excited the kids get about it as well, and how much. But I'm not religious, so it's mainly just a time to be with family that more people have access to time, pretty much, which is what I love. What about you?
It would definitely be Christmas carols, specifically the Christmas carols on the beach in Surfers Paradise. That is like the ultimate 3 hours of my entire year. Very fun memories of doing that ever since I was pregnant, actually. And yeah, just the vibe and the atmosphere more than anything else. Again, also not religious, but still love the festive season and everything that comes with it. And I'm always, I wouldn't say shocked, but I don't find Christmas to be all that expensive time of year in comparison to the rest of the year, with the exclusion of maybe some key presents, if there's larger presents. But how about you? Do you find it to be a more expensive time of year?
Not particularly but I can see where the expenses creep in. So, like travel. So, I've got a lot of family in South Australia and Victoria. So, the travel is really expensive on those dates. So,
Mm.
what and always being self-employed or being like with a tradie self-employed, just the fact that the cash flow during that period. So, fair enough, if you've got like an employment and you've got paid holidays and things, you're not going to notice the difference. But I find that a lot of people need to budget for not only the expenses of Christmas, so they might be doing presents, they might be going on a holiday, they might have increased food costs or entertaining costs, but they also need to budget for being able to pay all their normal bills that aren't going to stop just because they're not working.
I had a meeting this week specifically for someone who is a contractor who only gets paid on the days that they work, and there's closures over the Christmas break. So they're missing out on, I think it was around $9,000 of income over that period. And they have to plan for that starting now, if not sooner, in
Yeah.
order to set aside enough income between now and then to cover that period of no income, to cover their usual expenses plus any Christmas type expenses.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I did the same this week. So we've only just decided that, me and my ex and the kids are going to go away to Europe to see family for Christmas, really last minute because one of the family members is quite elderly and sick. Anyway, so we're going to be away for 4 weeks. So just this week, I had to work out, right, so I'm not going to work any of December, and then I'll get back ready to work. But being self-employed, most people are going to be off in January. They're not going to be ready just to jump into it. It's not like I get back from holidays and I can just start earning.
yeah.
It's going to take a while. So I had to kind of map out realistically I've got like 8 weeks of not having income till it's regular again. So yeah, it's all about planning. And I always say to people when we're looking at their cash flow, like, Christmas isn't a surprise. It comes around every you pretty much know what your family tends to do. Like, this Europe trip was just totally like out of the blue, but that doesn't happen very often. And if we didn't have the capacity to do it, we wouldn't be doing it. But yeah, it comes around every year. So if you have really an like a bit of a budget, you know, well, roughly we spend X amount per kid or these presents. We know that I need X amount of money for time off. We usually get a domestic flight to, you know, interstate or whatever. You can actually map out, and for the 12 months, like 26 fortnights or however often you get paid, you could be putting a little bit aside so that when Christmas comes around, it's not actually any more of an expense. Just like you would with your car rego or your rates, you're putting a little bit away, because it shouldn't be a surprise of what Christmas is going to cost you, unless there's like emergencies and stuff are surprises, but otherwise it should be pretty similar each year, I would expect.
Yeah, I don't personally put any amount aside per week or per fortnight or anything like that, but there are certainly people who do that, and it works really well for them. Something that I was talking about recently with someone is actually Christmas Day and what happens on Christmas Day, because ever since I can remember, what has happened in my family and now my husband's family is the same, in that everyone goes to one location and everyone brings a plate of food. And you don't just all rock up with it, although we love dessert. We normally have way more dessert than anything else. But that is pre-planned, and like we write a list of what we want to eat and then divvy it up so that it's quite even. But I was talking to someone who doesn't do that, and if they host, they supply absolutely everything. So yes, that's a higher cost, but also the stress and the time and everything that comes with that can be really overwhelming and not make it very enjoyable for that hosting family necessarily. That's not to say if you do that and you enjoy doing it that you can't do it, but I was just really surprised that it was done that way. What's your experience with the food side of things on the actual Christmas Day?
Yeah, it's always pretty different. Like, if we go to mum or dad's, we're guests and we've usually travelled, so they'll just supply it all. But we'll be in the kitchen in the morning helping, doing everything, right? Whereas, like, if we have it at my house the last few years, we, being the host, we've done the main part of it, like the meat and whatever, but people have bought a salad or a dessert. But yeah, most people like contribute. But I was just thinking, like, conversations that I've had and like trends that I've noticed probably even in the last 10 years, or when you're more aware of it, right? You've got kids and you're busy. Is I'm kind of thinking that people are not getting lazier, but realizing that they don't have to put on such a big show, and that it can be more casual, and that they can just go, this is actually about the time. It doesn't need to be the fanciest. And yeah, I'm kind of noticing, and it might just be in the circles that I hang out with, but we're all kind of just like, it doesn't need to be perfect. Like, let's just do whatever. Like, yeah, I don't know.
And it's probably always going to change for everyone as well, depending on what they've got going on and what they're prioritizing and everything like that. But apart from the food on the day, there's also the gifts. Do you have a budget, or what do you do in that space? Do you do Secret Santa or no gifts at all? Or what does that look like?
So I love Secret Santa, because if we didn't do Secret Santa, I would say no presents for adults. Like, I'm not big on, I actually hate it, buying presents and getting given presents for the sake of a present. Like, the thought of somebody going to the shops with a list going, shit, what can I buy Gemma? I have no idea what to get her. Like, that's just, and I don't want all this stuff in my house. Like, so yeah, I don't want the pressure of having to buy for somebody that I don't 100% know, oh my God, that's for them. So I'm like, no presents for adults unless it's Secret Santa, and that's really fun, and I love that. And you put a limit on it, like, but yeah, presents for the kids is different. I'm happy for my kids to get presents, obviously, but as we talked about in other like for my nephew, I don't give him a present, I get him shares. But yeah, I hate gift giving for the sake of gift giving and putting that pressure on people.
Yeah. I have some really fond memories, particularly at work, having previously been employed, where we do Secret Santa, but we do like the stealing one, for example.
I love that one too. Yeah.
So it's about the joy of what you're doing and who you're with, more so than I remember there was what are those things you can put in your wardrobe, the little smelly balls?
Like mothballs.
Yeah, that was a gift one year. Like, I remember this was years ago. And so for me, like, that's a really fun time at work. Everyone was laughing about it. There was another one that was a private part spray that got gifted. And it was, again, it's not about the thing, and we don't want to unnecessarily contribute to landfill. I hate doing that. But it did bring a lot of joy into the room and helped with what's it called? What do you call it in a workplace? No, in a workplace, you've got not your environment,
culture. We love the word culture. But I think it also really helps if there's like disparities in the workplace. So for example, like working in financial planning offices, the advisors would earn quite a lot more money than support staff or junior advisors and things. So the thought of, going, oh, well, what do I get? Like if I was working under an advisor, a senior advisor, like what do I get them when they, and they're obviously, well, they're usually going to get me something more. So I just like the fact that you go, no, Secret Santa, here's a set limit. You could either buy for somebody or you could not buy for anyone and put them in and, you just grab them. Yeah, there's so many different ways to do it. But that gets us onto a really, really good point about traditions.
Mm-hmm.
So we've both said we're not religious, but there's still a great deal of meaning that goes into Christmas and that time because we associate it with family and different things. But one thing that I talk about and I really want to stress to people is just because you have traditions that you've always followed, it doesn't mean you have to keep doing them. I want people to actually question, does this actually align with my life? Does it add value? Are we doing this because somebody put this on us, or is this a tradition that we want to carry forwards?
Do you have any examples?
Well, the gift giving, right, where people give every family member, whereas I'd rather, and like even my girlfriends, I'm like, don't buy us presents. Let's all go out for dinner one night, or But yeah, traditions of having to visit like certain areas, and I don't know. I just think there's so many different traditions out there, and I think that as you have your own family and you grow in different ways and you start to have your own belief system, it's good to question those traditions to make sure that they still align with you and that you're not keeping up with traditions that are potentially not aligned with your values, but especially your financial situation and goals.
And you can, of course, adopt new traditions. Something that I'm seeing become increasingly popular, particularly for buying gifts for children, is around the one thing they can wear, one thing they can read, one thing that they want, one thing that there's, I think, 5 different things. And it's a way to not necessarily have a budget, but to limit how overboard we can go. Because quite often, I've even experienced this myself, where we get to Christmas Eve and wrap presents, because I'm a last minute person and that's when I wrap them at about 10 p.m. on the 24th of December. And I look at everything and I think, is this enough? And
I do that as well. And it's always...
I know it is, but we all have those thoughts and those feelings. And I think it's really important to remember that the more you spend doesn't mean the more you care. And yeah, Christmas is about so much more than those gifts.
That's important to teach kids as well. So on that, I wanted to ask a question, but if anyone's listening, if there's little ears listening, maybe mute it. So I wanted to talk about Santa.
Mm-hmm.
So we have young kids, so obviously Santa is a big part of Christmas. Yeah. I have some views on what Santa presents should be, but I'm interested to see if you do as well. So it's good timing that school holidays, right, we still have like 3 weeks after Christmas, because it would be horrible if like Christmas was on a weekend and then imagine going back to school the next day and somebody going, oh, Santa got me a trampoline and an iPad and this, and somebody else going, oh, what? Santa got me PJ. It's like, so, but usually they don't talk about it while they've got back to school because it's all forgotten about. But I'm big on going, well, the big presents should be from mum and dad, because you can kind of talk to the kids or whatever about the family position or whatever. Whereas I kind of think Santa should be, we should all come together and be like, if we're going to keep the dream of Santa alive, Santa should have like a bit more of a level playing field, like the iPad example. But what do you think about that?
I've had this discussion with people in the past, particularly parents of nieces and nephews, because if one family does it one way, yes, you're not talking about until you go back to school, but then you're observing on the day. And so I have been conscious about it, but I think we do overthink it.
Yeah, I was actually going to say
Um,
the kids probably don't really even think of it as much as I did just then, but
the one thing that always has bothered me is whether any gifts in a stocking are wrapped or not, because we, or I as a child, never had the little knickknacks in the stocking wrapped, but I know other families do, and I'm like, how can Santa do this one way and then another way? And then I think we're overthinking it. I think that we just always put so much pressure on ourselves to try and do the right thing
yeah.
and do what is right. But yeah, let's take some pressure off and just do whatever works for us. And if there's a discussion that has to happen later about why Johnny got a trampoline and why Ruby didn't, then we have that conversation down the track.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So Easter, so my kids just turned 10 and 8. So Easter just gone. They were at there and they rang me and they were like, Mum, Easter Bunny has put barcodes on all our eggs. That doesn't seem legit. And I was like, and I was like, kids, come on, are you serious? Like, you honestly think that Easter Bunny has time to make all the eggs? Of course he's going to get some from Target and Kmart, and like, because I think they picked up where it was actually from as well. And I was like, of course he's got to do shopping, just like Santa. Santa's got to do shopping as well. They can't make every single toy. But I was like, oh, they're like getting like super clued on.
Yeah. Is there anything else in terms of Christmas or Easter or any kind of celebration that you can make a suggestion that may reduce the cost to an individual or to a family that might be listening?
Yeah. I would honestly, now's about the perfect time to be reassessing what you're spending, because you're probably already starting to either spend money if you're going away or get presents and things. So this time, it's actually really important to take stock of how you're feeling and how the money pressure is, because now, while you might not be able to do anything for it right now for this Christmas, you can make sure that this time next year you're not going to be feeling exactly the same. So my
Yeah.
tips would be to be really conscious of what you're spending, what you're feeling, if it feels a bit tight, and then put a plan in place from January to either put some separate money away or, get gift cards or do whatever you can during the year. That means that this time next year isn't going to be as stressful. So that's my number one tip. The other one would be reassessing the traditions. And that could be hard because maybe they don't align with you, but it's very important to your parents or your grandparents. And it's not something that everybody can just go, well, we're not doing that anymore. Obviously, there's some family pressure, but perhaps you talk about other alternatives or alternating. Every second year you'll do something like that. But just really kind of taking stock of the traditions that add value. That'd be my main two. And then it would be around shopping the sales as well, which we can talk about in a little bit more detail if we have time. But what would your main ones be?
My two would be in relation to gifts, particularly for children, is to try and think ahead to the year coming to identify if there's anything that you are going to have to buy anyway. So it might be a new lunchbox for school,
Santa
a new
brings school bags.
school bags, shoes. It might be clothes in the next size up. So things that you're going to have to fork out for anyway, but you've just taken the opportunity to wrap them up. And then I guess amongst those things that you're going to have to buy anyway, something that of course would light their face up on Christmas morning because that's something that they really, really wanted. I am still rocking the idea that I'm sure was spoken about in the past where we're at the shops and if my kids want something, all I have to say to them now is, let's take a photo for Santa. And they allow me to take a photo and they put the thing back without argument and we continue on. And I've actually then got those photos on my phone that I can go back through at Christmas time. So it's not such a like, oh, what did they want? What do they keep asking for? Or what was a once off thing? And then the other thing would be in relation to food. So it might be like I love prawns, but if I am the person to buy prawns for the 25 people that are at that place on that day, on Christmas Day, that's obviously a really large expense to buy kilos and kilos of prawns. So trying to, especially with those more expensive ingredients, incorporate them into a dish rather than having like just prawns. So it might be a prawn salad. So you're still having your prawns and you're still providing it to a larger group. If the cost is an issue, if it's not an issue and you love your prawns, you just go out and buy the 10 kilos of prawns or whatever it might be. But they would be my two big things. Like, it's not that you can't have something, it's that you can find a different way to still have it for a cheaper cost.
And also, like, if you think most people's Christmases, they have so much food left over. So yes, maybe you get the prawns, but you don't get as much as you think. Just like we were going, oh, we think the presents are never enough. Like, if you run out of prawns, it's not like anyone's going to go, oh, why didn't you get more prawns? They're going to go, oh, there's all this other food. You know, we're not going to stuff ourselves silly. So you can have a small bit of something to enjoy if there's like a tradition. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Like, the food, you can definitely overthink like the presents. And yeah, it's about the atmosphere and bringing people together. And I think everybody just puts so much pressure on themselves.
And coming back, a thought I just had, and this is off the back of a conversation I had with some clients around this. We typically have one person, one parent shopping for gifts in a lot of families. And there's often a breakdown in communication of what those gifts are and how many gifts are purchased. So making sure that there is communication so that there's no surprises and less chance of arguments around how much was spent if one person thinks that it was not necessary or was overboard or anything like that. So you can make decisions together, even if it is just one person physically going to get the gifts.
Yeah.
Do you want to use the last 2 minutes to elaborate on what you
2 minutes, because we took like 5 minutes to get on. Sorry. Yeah, so shopping the sales, I absolutely love a bargain, and Christmas, you know, like Boxing Day sales, all of that, it's kind of like the best time of year. Well, it was, and now we have Black Friday and things. But if you're going to shop the sales, what I would suggest, so you can make the most of it, make sure your money goes far, avoid temptation and avoid all of those emotions that advertisers, like the shops, are trying to make you feel like you're going to miss out. FOMO, the scarcity mindset, like this urgency that you have to buy things. So some things to counteract from that, I would, throughout the year or the last few months or whatever it is, start making a list of wants. So needs are things that you need at the time, so you probably can't wait for a sale to come up. But wants are things that should go on a list if you're going to try and shop the sales. So, you know, well, if this thing goes on sale, I want that. And you would shop around and still make sure you got the best price, try and price match. But really, I think that if you're going to do it and have discipline, you should go into sales with a list of, these are the things that I want. You know, I want a new pair of jeans, or I want this, I want that. And if it's not on a list, don't get it. I think you have to be pretty disciplined with it, so you can treat yourself, but within reason. Like, yes, I wanted a pair of jeans, I'm not getting caught up with it now, I need them for this reason, they'll go with these tops, kind of thing, like, or whatever. So I would budget and save to it. If you know that you always have a blowout on sales and you spend $1,000, then in the months leading up to, start putting money away so that you can blow that money guilt-free because you've actually worked towards it, like the reverse of a buy now, pay later. So I'd set a limit, make a list of the things you want, still shop around, and put money aside in advance.
I don't know if it's just because I don't want anything, but I don't, as you say, shop the sales. It's not to say I won't ever buy something during a sale. It's just a coincidence. It's not that I'm like, oh, Black Friday's coming up, what do I want? I'll put it on a list. I'm very much of the opinion that if you wouldn't pay full price, then you don't want it enough or you don't need it. And the amount that you're going to, let's say it's a larger thing, so anything in excess of like $100, typically you can negotiate the price on. Like coffee machines, people don't realize that JB Hi-Fi and The Good Guys and Harvey Norman, they don't just price match. You can also negotiate the prices on things. So if it's a larger thing, I have always found that I'm able to negotiate better prices than any sale, even during times like Black Friday. And then for the smaller things, well, if I save $5 on something or $50 on something, is it, you know, a game changer? Probably not. It suits me to get it when I really did want it rather than having to wait. So I am not of a different opinion, but I am not a sale shopper.
But it sounds like you're not a shopper, full stop. Whereas like a lot of people, their downtime, and I actually used to be like this, but I'm not anymore. But downtime would be like, oh, well, I've got nothing to do today. I'm planning a day to walk around a shopping centre, like, and just look at everything when you don't need anything. So that used to be my weekends.
I am a big window shopper, but I think that stems from childhood because that's what we did. We didn't buy anything, we window shopped for the entertainment of window shopping. And so I can quite comfortably spend 8 hours at a shopping centre and walk away with having bought nothing and still enjoyed my experience.
I can go, if I go in for one thing, like say that I have to go to the main shopping centre to go and get a pair of school shorts for the kids, I don't leave without spending $100 on stuff that I did not need. So now I keep a list all the time and I try to put like my blinkers on and be like, please don't see anything shiny that you want to buy.
Woolworths is a different story for me. I'll go in there for milk and I'll spend $200, but I'm okay with the retail shops. That brings us to the end. If you have any questions around Christmas, submit them. If you have any topics that you want to hear in future weeks, submit them. But otherwise, we will see you next week.
Great. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.